the advice is that you cannot become a general if you are not being before a corporal, a sergeant, a lieutenant. So go step by step. Don't pretend immediately to receive the Nobel Prize, because that kills every literary career.
I think that there are a lot of young people who want to write, love writing, are interested in writing, talk about writing, but don't actually write and don't actually read either. So I often talk about how I think it's so important to read widely. And when I teach writing, I assign a lot of reading.
Young writers don't need, counsels at all. I think they should discover by themselves, first of all, how extraordinary vocation is literature, the pleasure extraordinary that is writing literature. And on the other hand, I think the only counsel that is acceptable is to work very hard, very, very hard, until you discover the kind of writer that you want to be.
I feel many students come into university as good students. They're writing to please their teachers, and they've done all the expected things. But to write something really that will excite them and excite others, they have to push past those desires to please and all the constraints of conforming to, academic success. So they have to do something weird.
Kind of the thing that I remember saying to myself was, whatever is weird about you and weird about your way of seeing things and doing things is probably the thing you should be doing. But you have to do it more. Because if you do it more, then it becomes something. So I think, I think that's the advice I would give. It's rather than, I guess trying to, conform, or it's like identify what is weird about what you're doing? What is weird about you? Really, properly, we're not just a bit quirky or whatever, but find the kind of and then really, really get into that, because that can be really interesting, and that can really give you an awful lot.
There is one thing, I cannot understand those novelists that publish a book every year. They lose this pleasure of spending 6, 7, 8 years to prepare a story.
The most important advice I have is to have fun. To try to create something that is fun to work on. If you are having fun, really fun, not just kind of masturbatory fun, but actually you've gotten something going that is just fun, and fun in the sense of completely engaging. Fun like you're on a tennis court. When you're on a tennis court, you're not just messing around, you're not just hitting the ball wherever you want. You are focused on having a game. And once you are in it, you are having fun. That's the kind of focused fun I'm talking about. And if you are having that kind of focused fun, there's a good chance that the reader will too.
When I was a younger writer, starting out in my 20s, I loved rules. I want to know all the rules, because the rules are like the guardrails on the highway. You feel very comforted driving, knowing that you have to go straight, and you turn according to what the municipal planners have given you. But if you follow the guardrail and the road, you will only go to what is known on the GPS. You will only go to places that have already been discovered and explored ahead of you. In other words, you're following rather than truly going and endeavoring. And I think for so many queer folks, after a while, you realize that this road was never made with me in mind.
And you have to discover exactly what kind of writer do you want. If you discover this, I think you will be a good writer. Otherwise, if you are lost and you don't know and you won't be able to discover, I think failure will be immediate, the final balance, you know.
And then I guess one of the other things I would say as well is to have friends who are not necessarily writers, but certainly maybe work in the arts as well, because you do need quite a lot of support, I think. And like, I'm very good friends with quite a lot of visual artists, and they just really understand the ups and the downs, and the moments when you feel really high and delighted with yourself, and the moments when you're just like so full of self-loathing and so down and feeling so vulnerable. And so I think it's really important to have people who understand that and can really be there with you actually properly, without necessarily coming out with the well-intended kind of cliches of like, you know, you'll get there in the end, or, you know, keep at it, or whatever. I think that's really, really important.
I was kind of writing in a bit of a vacuum. I didn't have a writing community until much later. So I didn't really have people to whom I could turn for writing advice. So I would say that, if anything, I just learned by reading. So read very widely, actually write. Try and keep in touch with your writing every day.
You have to write knowledgeably. I mean, students are very worried about cultural appropriation right now, and I understand that. But if you're writing knowledgeably about a person who is different from you, your knowledge can come from many places. It can come from research, it can come from your life, it can come from a deep imagining of something, but it can't come superficially. So I say be free, but don't be casual. Be free, be deep.
All the rules that I learned have been disproven, either by others or by my own work. And I realized that I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just following the curiosity. That the work of the writer is to not so much nail anything down, but to make space for the endeavor of curiosity, to widen the theater of wonder. And that to me is a very queer thing, but it's not something that is just available to queer people. It's, heteronormativity could be abandoned if you have the courage to do so.
I've never known a young writer to come up to you to say, do you have any advice for me? They're normally coming up to say, well, my second novel needs a blurb. Could you have it by Wednesday? But I think if there was something, it would be just finish it. Just finish it and stop moaning.